how far, Paul, is Arsenal now in this week? Would you say Inter away and Chelsea away from where they were in the last 2 seasons, really pushing Manchester City all the way?
If you're just working on the last couple of games, they're not far. They won't be far away.
I think they're getting closer.
Yeah, I mean, good performance in Milan. Didn't really look like scoring. Today they come to a difficult place. You know, some team that are playing well with very, very talented footballers, and we're very comfortable. If I'm being honest, you know, Raya didn't really make any world-class saves. It's a start. It's a base. As he says, he's got to get the players fit now. He's got to get them fully fit. He's got to fill the tank up. That's the main thing. You can have flat tyres, but if you ain't got the diesel or petrol in it, that's the main thing. And that's what he's got to do. He's got to fill them back up again. And they've got to get on a run. They've got to make sure this goes down to 6 points before it gets to 12 points. If it gets to 12, good night. If it gets to 6...
Well, you said it was must-win before the game.
Yeah, you said they're out. Are they back in it now?
No, I don't think they're back in it. I still think they'll do well to catch Liverpool. I do. But if they can get it to 6 before it goes to 12... which is important. When that might be at the end of December. It might stay at 9 till the end of December. But long as it goes to 6 before 12, because if it goes to 12, it's finished. If it goes to 6, then it's hardly anything in it. So, but Arsenal haven't got a mistake in them. Liverpool have got a mistake in them because they've got such a big lead on Arsenal.
Yeah, but it's going to go all the way because we've already seen that anybody can beat anybody. What Liverpool have in their favour is, though, that Arsenal have to go there as well. So that's a big advantage. Going to Anfield is never easy. They've got themselves in a great position. Arne Slot's the big winner this weekend. He'd have looked to that and thought, as long as Arsenal don't win, I'll be delighted. Manchester City losing yesterday, it's been perfect for them. The options he's got, he wants everyone to go away from international break, come back fit and keep it going, keep that momentum because it's such a hard place to go. Graham will know, he's managed there, he's coached there enough times. Right now, the ascendancy is with Liverpool. Who's going to... And I didn't see that happen at the start of the year.
A couple of weeks' time, when we get back from the international break, Liverpool play Man City. Do you know what I mean? So all of a sudden, if Man City go and win that game and then Arsenal win and then it's at 6 again. But if Liverpool win and beat Man City, you'd be sitting there as an Arsenal fan thinking, oh no. And how many times have Arsenal ever wanted Man City to beat Liverpool?
Do you see something different about Arsenal?
I think for the first time they've suffered with injuries. I think that's been the big factor for them. Previous to the last couple of years, you pretty much know he's been fortunate, and they've worked very, very well to have not so much disruption. I think as soon as you lose Odegaard, as soon as you lose your centre-backs that are so the foundation for your team, as soon as you have to make those changes, it's the same with Man City as well. They've had to suffer as well. So I think as soon as you have that challenge, and then you've got Champions League, and then you're playing against teams that haven't got the European challenge as much. Chelsea, I don't think, have the same challenge that the Champions League gives you. All of a sudden, it becomes harder and harder. With the car reference, I think when I was here in the Champions League and Premier League, it was like I needed the RAC and the AA. Never mind that.
The wheels come off.
He was bringing spark plugs around. And that was just for you.
Exactly.
Also, the big news from Arsenal this week that Edu is on his way out. And do you see this as being significant news for Arsenal?
It could be worrying. I think, for Arsenal fans, 20-odd years, how long ago? 20 years ago, 25 years ago, David Dein was there. David Dein was working with Arsene Wenger. They were bringing in, the quality of player they were bringing in was off the charts. They were working together. David Dein, Arsene Wenger would probably say to him, I want to get that player, and again, get that player. And it was amazing. Then David Dein left the club. And for me, then after that, I thought some of the standard of the players that went in at Arsenal weren't good enough, nowhere near good enough. And it sort of took a lull and never really in the title race. All of a sudden, Arteta comes in, Edu comes in, they work together. And the quality of player they brought in, I see the list of players they bought since Edu's been there. Everybody's been a success. Everybody's been really outstanding. And that would be my worry because it's such a big thing now. It's hard enough to be a manager in the Premier League, but you can't do everything. You can't be spinning plates as well, going to watch football matches, going to do that, trying to get that player. You've got to have someone who works with you. I mean, Graham will probably be able to tell you better, but I'm sure that is one of the most important parts of the game.
That relationship. Have to have the relationship.
Is it, Graham? How important is the role of a sporting director in modern Premier League football?
Yeah, I think Paul's alluded to it there. It's just that alignment with recruitment, because if you continually make good decisions in recruitment, you've got a chance with the environment, you've got a chance with your team. If you make the wrong decision, you've got the opposite, and it's problems. So I think it always works in tandem. You need good people, you need good recruitment, but you also need good coaching. I think Mikel's done that really well. He's created an environment there at Arsenal. There's standards. There's a clear way of they want to play, and then that provides it. That makes it easier for the recruitment team to do their work and make good decisions. Ultimately, whoever comes in has to be aligned with Mikel, and has to be on the same wavelength. Take the pressure off Mikel and take the workload off him, but they still need to be aligned and making the same decisions.
100%.
But
every manager has to have that. You have to have the final say. You don't mind if your director of football gives you 3 players, and then you say, well, look, we've got 3 left backs here. Which one do you want? I think that's how most managers and coaches will want to work now. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think that's how it is. The trick is...
Was that the way at Brighton?
Yeah, to a certain extent it was. Yeah, like I said, the challenge is if you want to make real good depth decisions in recruitment, if you're the first team coach, your job here for Mikel is he's got 25 players that he needs to prepare the games to play Premier League football. That's his main job. So how much time can he devote to making a really, really good in-depth decision to support all the recruitment sort of work that goes on behind the scenes? It's not easy. I think that's where you'd have to rely on, say, an Edu, or rely on somebody to do that thinking for him to make that decision, because otherwise you can end up thinking, okay, the worst thing for the club is they hand over 3 players. Come on then, Mikel, make the decision here, and he's in the middle of preparing to play at Manchester City, and he's like, well, what's going on here? How can I give this the weight that it deserves?
And I think the big advantage was Edu played for Arsenal. It makes I think that goes a long way, because it's different playing for big football clubs. There's a lot of pressure playing for big football clubs, and you're putting players in that you got to think, right, do they suit the way we play? Can they handle playing for a big club? Because we're looking at Arsenal drawing at Chelsea here. I mean, that's a good result, but it's Arsenal. And you're thinking, well, they should go and win this game.
We're judging it purely because they were in runners-up in the last couple of years.
No, exactly, but that's where it takes you. That's why, because they're a big football club and they're a big team. And I think that helps. You look at Man United, you put their recruitment to Arsenal's, it's chalk and cheese. There's some of the players that are coming up Man United and you're thinking, have they been good? Are they good enough to play for Man United? Have they got the right temperament to play for Man United? Were they good enough with the teams they were playing before they come to Man United? Now they're coming to a massive football club. All that stuff. I hope they get it right, but it would be a big miss with Edu. Big miss.
Outside, just moving away from Arsenal slightly, Graham. Outside of football, I think people look at Brighton as the ideal scenario, as the sort of model of how to go about it with recruitment and sporting directors. How different is it at Brighton to how it worked here at Chelsea?
Well, to start with, Tony Bloom has been a chairman for 10 years. He's owned the club for 10 years, something like that. So he's a fan, so he understands the club, understands the team, and then he's got a strong data model that influences every single decision that the club makes. To have something like that, to take the subjectivity, to take emotion out of the game. So, at these big clubs, and more so than most, if you win, you're good, and if you lose, it's a disaster. And sometimes you need to be able to make better decisions than that. You need to be able to see, okay, what's the performance like? How can we make better decisions in the short term, medium term, long term? How can we be logical? How can we use information to make... Because you can't get caught up in that up and down nature of football, because then you can make some bad decisions. So I think that's the big advantage that they have. And because he's so objective, he just sort of calms everything down. The supporters trust him. If he employs a 31-year-old coach because he thinks that's a good idea to do, everybody believes in it. Everybody supports it. I think if you haven't got that trust at leadership level, it can be quite difficult. And I think that's the biggest thing that they've got.
Is that a bigger advantage, though, at Brighton? Because at Brighton, it gives you time. You bring a player in at Brighton, if they haven't got that massive pressure of no disrespect, it's not a Chelsea, it's not a Man United, it's not an Arsenal. They come in at Brighton and there's not as much pressure on them, do you know what I mean, at the time, and it gives them more time to hit the ground running. You go in at Man United off the cuff, like Mount, people like that, they get behind the 8 ball. It's hard to get from behind the 8 ball at a big club like that. But at Brighton, you do get that little bit more time.
Just to touch on Edu, and I feel he will be a miss for Arsenal. But maybe not as big as probably what Arsenal think. Because if they wanted to keep him, I'm sure they could have given him the money to make sure that he stayed and not go to Nottingham Forest.
Yeah, maybe.
So maybe they think to themselves, and Mikel Arteta backs himself.
If that was what it was about, the suggestion he's gone to a chief executive role as opposed to a sporting director.
I feel that if you can go and get the right person, anyone would want to work for Arsenal. You know, Mikel Arteta does feel to me that he's the sort of guy that's going to want to control things himself as well.
Is that a negative?
Yeah, but not necessarily. That's the way I quite like. Where everyone has their own view on football. I quite like a manager to be in charge of the signings, because one thing for sure, if they're wrong, only one person gets the sack, and that's the manager. The director of football, the chief exec, they stay, and the manager then is on his way. You've got to have a real say in what you want.
Is the problem with that, Graham? If that manager's allowed to sign those players who don't work and he is then sacked, the new manager comes in and inherits the players that he doesn't actually want.
Yeah, and then it's almost a vicious circle. I understand what Jamie's sort of alluding to. I think I almost think it's a balance. At Brighton, it was always almost like a traffic light situation. It was like you needed green for, does the manager like it? Does the recruitment team like it? Does the scouts like it? Does the data like it? If there's a yes in all of them, then they'll sign him. I don't think if I'd have turned around and said no, I really don't like the play, I really can't see how the player fits in. It'd be hard for the club to make the signing.
And my point in it is, I've been at clubs when a manager has no idea that someone's just been signed. That can't happen. So you have to have some kind of dialogue with the manager and the chief exec or the director that says, this is the player we're going to bring in. We like him. He fits the profile of the club. He's young. He's a good footballer. That all makes sense. But I feel that Mikel Arteta will certainly find another hairdo very quickly.
I don't think it's an easy job. I think it goes under the radar. I think with Walcott now at Man United, I think it will change. When they're there now, that kind of player, you're not going to be paying £80 million for Anthony anymore. Them days are long gone. They'll be doing their own work. They'll be doing it. I just, because of what happened before with the David Dean situation, it's hard. And the big advantage was Edu played for the club. He was a top player as well. I'm not saying because you're a top player, that's it. But he knew the kind of player they needed, and they always went out and got the right player. It was like, right, we need a centre half. We're going to get a centre half. They put Saliba on loan for 2 years.
I know, but they nearly signed.
2 years.
And who knows what he's going to as a player?
They nearly signed
Mudryk.
They nearly did.
And they didn't. And they went, well, that's too much money now. Let's go and get Trossard instead. So who knows? Yeah,
but at least they went. It was too much money. They didn't go, oh, right, we want him. We'll just keep on going, and we'll go and pay over the top.
Just to finish on this, Graham, because I asked the question about the balance between, or the difference between Brighton and Chelsea, and you sort of talked about Brighton taking the emotion out of it. With Chelsea, do you feel there is too much emotion around the decision-making?
Not necessarily, but I think you've got new owners, new sport director. You've had that over the last 2 years, a real an attempt to transform a team, transform a culture. And I think the thing that we're all talking about really, it's trust. You need trust. So Brighton have trust because of Tony's data model. If you look at Man City, they trust the recruitment that's gone on there because Pep and Shiki have had a close relationship. So there's a big trust there. Jurgen at Liverpool have done some really good work. I think here with Mikel and Edu, there's, all of a sudden there's trust at decision making. I think for the last 2 years at Chelsea, there's probably been a lack of that because probably it's hard for people to see, hang on a minute, it's Chelsea, we should be winning the Champions League, but the owners have gone down a different strategy, which is to invest in younger players. By doing that, all of a sudden the club's a little bit not quite getting the results that they want to get, and while that's happening, everyone's like, this is painful, we don't like this, we used to winning. And at Chelsea, you have to see that you're gonna win. And for the last 2 years, probably because of the change, because of the turbulence, they were not in a position to do that. Hopefully, going forward, they will be.